All right, so I'll begin the recording. Okay, so today's presentation simply introduction to Java. So like I said, we've set ourselves some objectives. So we want to at least know what Java is and where it came from. So we'll discuss some brief history, so that when they're talking about Java, at least you have an idea what it is, where it is coming from. And then we can begin to install and work with the Java environment. To, like I was mentioning last week, before you can begin writing Java programs, you need to do certain things on your computer. And so we'll look at those ones. And then we will start creating simple Java applications or the first Java applications. Most of the times when it comes to programming, the first thing you always write is what we say is hello world. So we say hello world, I'm now starting Java programming or something. We'll try to see how we can write an application like that. Okay, so as we go on, if you have any questions, you can just either raise your hand. Yeah, raise your hand or mute your microphone, and then you can talk. Okay, so the question now is, what is Java? That's the logo of Java. And so we call it a high-level, full-featured, general-purpose programming language. So that's a sentence that is so loaded. So when we say high-level, what we are saying here is that programming has reached a point where we humans can just write our normal English, or if you are a French person, you can write French or Arabic or whatever. And then the computer has systems that can interpret this simple English and then get the computer to understand and execute the programs. Now, when programming started, computers started, programming was done using machine language. So you needed to understand how the computers work at the hardware level before you can even begin to write programs. And so programming was reserved for high-level computer scientists and engineers and all that. But now we have moved to a level where generally or almost everybody can write simple English, and then the computers will be able to work with it and produce the results that we want. So programming is no longer doing what we call machine language. So we write our normal English, and then there are things that will convert that English to the machine language. Remember, computers are just zeros and ones. That is on off. Computers have nothing else apart from transistors, and these are just things that switch on or off. And of course, there are millions of them in your memory, in your processors, and other things. And so all it's doing is switching on and off. So how do you get instructions to the computer at that level to switch on and off certain things, or some of the transistors, so that it can give you the results that you want. So when we say high level, we are now at the level at which you can easily write from regular human language, and then the machines will be able to work with it. So when we say full featured, it means we have a whole lot of things that we can do with it, several features. And we'll be seeing that one ultimately. General purpose means you can use it for so many applications. And so you can write applications for mobile applications, mobile devices, websites, desktop applications, networks, applications, games, and all these things. But I think I showed the popularity of this programming language last week. And throughout the 2000s, even up to today, Java is still one of the most popular programming languages. So chances are that the applications that you are running on your mobile devices, they are developed using Java. So we are beginning to learn the syntax, the logic, and all those things of Java, so that we can begin building on it, and ultimately we can start developing applications in Java. Of course, this course is just introduction. There's no way you can begin writing Java programs after this course. But if you decide to take it upon yourself to learn it on your own, because some people do that. Some people have learned programming on their own. So if after this course you want to progress, and that's even advisable. But once you are in IT, it's always better to take it upon yourself to learn these things by yourself. So, and you can go on YouTube or any of these platforms and you can learn a lot. So this is just introduction, but ultimately you can use Java to write applications. And because it's an introductory course, we probably will just be working with text. So we're not going to develop things with Windows where you can click on and other things. We are not getting to that point. What we're going to be doing is simply writing plain text and then displaying the outcome in simple plain text. So we'll come to work on that. So Java is used almost everywhere. But most of the supermarkets, when you go in and they are doing their sales using those terminals, they're mostly developed using Java. And like I said, some of the applications that you download. Now, it's Java works on different platforms. So it doesn't matter. Once you write your Java application, it can run on Windows, on Mac, all those, and Android, and so on. Now, some time back, programming was operation, I'm saying operation. Either it is Windows or it is Mac, and then or it's Linux. If you were writing your application, it has to be specific to that operating system. Because if you wrote your application that was running on Windows, you couldn't run the same application on a Mac. Or now that we have Android and all that. And that's because the operating systems were developed independently by different companies or different groups. So Microsoft was developing Windows operating system, and then Apple was developing the Mac or the iOS. And now we also have Android. So these are the software that sort of interface with the hardware of the computer. If you start a computer and you don't load the operating system, you probably cannot use it for anything. Before we had Windows, we used to have what we call the disk operating system, or the DOS. And that one was so simple. You only open the black screen and you could only type text. There was nothing to click and all that. And then we started having these operating systems. So when these operating systems started coming out, when you were writing a program or an application, it was specific to a particular operating system. So once you wrote that, you can't take it and go and download it in an Android application, an Android system and get it to work. Well, it was not designed for Android. Now, and so the whole idea was get something that can work on the different platforms. So irrespective of the operating system you're using, you can always get it to work. And so we say it's platform independent, or it works on different platforms. It's easy to learn. So Java, if you really want to learn it, very easy, simple English, even though there's a whole lot of thinking and logic behind. If you keep at it, it's very easy to learn. It's free, open source in the sense that you can download it without paying anything. So people have spent time, energy, money, and other things to develop these things. But you can just download it for free. So you don't need to buy anything. It's secure, it's fast, and it's powerful. When we say powerful, it can do so many things. And I say, what I call a huge community support, in the sense that so many Java developers have come together to form online forums, like Facebook friends or something. And so when you are also developing, you can also join those groups or those forums. If you have a question, you can ask, and they will answer you. And so that we say it has a huge community support. So you are never lost. And you are developed, whether you are a beginner or you are an expert. There might be certain things that you will need some help or some clarification, and people are there ready to help you. So Java is object-oriented. We'll talk about that eventually. What it simply means is that create objects and we can reuse them. And then it's also close to the other high-level languages like C++. So if you've learned something about C++, it's very easy to understand Java because most of the syntax or the terminologies are very close. Okay, so where does Java come from? There was a company called Sun Microsystems that was started in the US, and this was led by one guy called Gosling, and he is, let me just hold on. Go to this site, and it shows you, yeah, okay, this one starts from the year 2000, but at least it shows you, so 2000, C was the most popular language. Then we had, yeah, so we had C. I'll expand this. It's taking long to, I think, yeah. Okay, so by 2004, Java was the most popular language. And now we have all the others, JavaScript, PHP, C, C++, and so on. So throughout the year, throughout the 2000s, Java was the most popular language. I don't know, you can click on the link and then you can see more of this here. So that tells you how popular Java is. Now there's something called the standard edition that we'll be using for our work or for our applications. So Java comes in different forms. There's the enterprise edition, which is used by the big companies, like I said, Amazon and Uber and those things. That is used, I mean, you need to have very powerful computers. We can't use ordinary laptops to develop those things. And so we are going to be using what we call the standard edition. There's also a micro edition for mobile devices. So if you want to do any Java application on a mobile device, you need to download the micro edition. Now that is not too popular at all because most people have difficulties writing programs on a mobile phone. That's really difficult. So most of the times we use the standard edition, and that's what we download. So the standard edition is used to develop client-side applications that can run as standalone, or what we call applets, and then as applets on the web browser. So in most cases, when you see some websites, not everything is one application. There are different independent Java applications that are running independent of each other, but the browser just assembles them and displays them for you. So if you go to some of these news websites and other things where you have maybe the weather showing in some window, you have financial stock market, you have the latest news, all those things are developed separately and independently. And then they are brought together on the browser for users to see. So we are going to be using the standard edition. So they just talking more of the features of Java, what it is about. So we've mentioned some of this already. Object-oriented, we'll talk about that eventually. Simple, secure, platform independent, robust, portable, and all that. So these are just some of the features of Java. Okay, so before we come to talk of the practical work of downloading and installing Java, not application, the Java, what we call the virtual machine. We'll come to understand that eventually. We want to look at the process. When you are going to develop Java, how do you go about it? So in most cases, not in most cases, in all cases, you can always write your Java application on a simple, plain text editor, like Notepad. And then you need to save it with a .java extension. So anytime you see file name .java, then it means that is a Java file. And then when you save your Java file, that is just plain English. Now the computer cannot interpret that. So you need something else that will convert that what you have typed into what we call byte code. So I want to call the source code and then the byte code. So the source code is what you type and save. Then the computer takes that, or what we call the Java compiler, and takes that and converts it to another type of file, and it saves it as .class. So source code is saved as .java, bytecode is saved as .class. And then it's the .class that is being run, because that one is now machine language. So when you create any Java program, you need to save it as .java. So let me just quickly demonstrate something here. So you can use simple notepad. So a simple notepad to write a Java program like this. Okay, so this is, we'll talk about this as we go along, what they all mean. But you have something here called system.out, hello world, welcome to Java. So this is going to be maybe your first Java application. So what we're saying is that when you type it like this, you are going to save. So I'll go to file and I'll say save as. Okay. So I'm going to save it as, why is my machine behaving? I'm going to save it as, yes, okay. Welcome, we come to understand, I already have it in there, okay. Welcome.java, or let me change it so that it doesn't conflict with this one. I cancel this. So I want to save this, so I'll say, okay, let me just give it another. I'll just say my Java, and my Java file, okay. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save this as the same exactly as the class name. We'll come to talk about that eventually as well. My Java file dot Java, Java. Now I have to make this all right. Okay, so I'm saving this on my desktop. Oh, what happened? I said, not hello world. I said, my Java file. I think I just picked okay, got Java, so save. Okay, so this is now my Java file. Now, because I've already got Java installed on my machine and all that, if I go to my command prompt on that, so on your computer, you can just go to CMD. That's what, when you start with C++ and other things, this is what you will be seeing or you'll be using. So this is your, and when we started before Windows, this was all what computers could do. You could open this black screen and all you could do was type. And we used to call this the DOS, the disk operating system. That was the first operating system before we had Windows and Mac and all that. Okay. So when I now write this, so the process, if I go back to me, before I come back and finish this, the process is that, where is my, it went off. Anyway, okay, so I just go back to, so that's what I was saying. Yeah. So you had you save your file as .java, and then the Java compiler will convert this to .class. And then we have what to call the virtual machine, which is also part of the Java that you download. We'll come to talk about that. It's now the one that runs the application or the program. So graphically, that's how it looks like. So when you write your program, you save it as my program.java. Then the compiler takes over. So the compiler, you would have downloaded it, and it's on your machine. So you can give the command, it will compile and convert this thing to my program.class. So whatever name you give it, .class. And then we have what we call the Java virtual machine is the one that now runs your .class file and then converts this to the zeros and ones that we said that computers can process and then that can now be displayed on your screen as your program. And so what it means is that when you write your program, it's going to be saved as .java, and then the compiler takes it and then converts it to .class. So if I open my, let me go to my desktop. Okay. So when I save, now I can't zoom this. Oh, a second. I can't zoom this because is it in the dust? The whole thing got messed up. Date modified. Okay. So we have type size name. So I want to bring back the, why is it giving me? Oh, the thing shifted, okay. So come here, so, all right, so here we have my Java file .java. So remember when I typed the application, that's how I saved it. So here I said public class, my Java file, like I said, we'll come back to that. So I saved this as my Java file .java. So any Java application that you write, you must save it as .java. And so I can't do much with this because this is English. I mean, you can't run this. But if I go to my command prompt and then I compile this, so I'll type Java, that's the Java compiler. And then I'll simply go to desktop. That's where my Java file .java. Okay, so when I do this, okay, so once, it doesn't say there's an error or anything, but it just comes back to the command prompt. It means it has now converted my Java file to a bytecode or class. So my source code has now been converted to bytecode. And if I come back to my desktop here, come back to my desktop, let me refresh this. Okay, so you can now see I have my Java file .java and then my Java file .class. So what the compiler has done is that it has converted the Java. So if I open this, it will bring back that is my normal Java file. But if I try to open the class file, so the class file, which the compiler has now converted, then is messed up like this. Because this is not even, Notepad is trying to display something, but it can't even be displayed. So this is now the machine language that is going to be run. So this is the .class file. So when you now ask it to run, it's going to now run the .class file. So here, if I come back to my command prompt, now I can ask, I'll just say Java desktop, so my Java file .java, and then I run. So when you do this, see that it has written out there, hello world, welcome to Java. And that is what we wrote, or that's what we wrote in our Java application. Where is it? Yeah. So what we said was that you should print out. So there's something called system.out.print. You should print out hello world, welcome to Java. And that's what is printed out there. So what it means is that anytime you write your Java code, you save it as a .java, and then the compiler takes over, converts it to .class, and then the .class is the one that is run to give you your results. Now, thankfully these days we don't go through all this because we have what we call the IDEs. So the IDEs are the ones that have the interface that gives you, makes the work easy for you. So you don't type these things manually to compile and to run and other things. So the simplest IDE that we'll be using. So I'll just open Eclipse. I'll come to show how you can get it. So we are going to be using Eclipse. So I'm going to take this file or what I've written here and run in the Eclipse so that we can see what we are talking about here. So let me just copy this. Okay. So show where my machine is slowing down like that. So I go to Eclipse. My machine has slowed down so bad. So what is there? Okay, so let it. I'll have to close some. Just opening it a bit slow. Okay, I don't need this. So let me. We'll come to all this. So don't worry about that. Let me close all this. Okay, so the Eclipse interface is like this. I'll come to explain all this again, but no, let me just run the. Don't worry about this. We'll come to that. So yeah, okay. So I'm calling this my Java file. I'll come to this, so don't worry about this. So I'll finish. Okay, so we have something in there already. You can see that when I created the thing in Notepad, this is how it looks like. So it says public class. Now there's package there. Don't worry about that one. But it has public class, my Java file. And so if I can even use something to illustrate this, so that I don't have to do. Okay. So we have my Java file. It's not anyway. Yeah. So that is what we call the class, and it's the same that is up there. So public class, my Java file. Can annotate this? My machine has slowed down, so I don't know where it's. Yeah. Okay. So and then we have this public static void and all that. So these are things that are these are standard in the Java. But now we have what we call system.out.println. Hello, welcome to Java. So let me close this. So if I copy this here, copy all this, and then I bring it here. Okay, I can remove this one. So I just paste this. Okay. So this is our Eclipse ID we are using. So I can easily run this. So if I say run, so I simply go to run, and then I run this here. And so it will appear at the, let me clean this. Yeah. All right, so it will appear, hello, welcome to Java. Now this is drastically different from what we did here. So if you are using the command prompt, you are going to be typing. So you have to type the file and say compile, and then come and say run. Before you get hello world, welcome to Java. So that is there. But like I said, we're not going to be using the command prompt so we're going to be using the IDE. And this one makes it very easy for you. Now, if you make an error, so if I were to go back to my Notepad, I'm going to do this just once and for all so that you don't. So if I were to do this and then I save. Now, so what's happening is that I save this. Now I'm going to compile this. If I come here and I say, I'm going to compile again. So I use the Java. So the Java does the compilation. Desktop, my Java file, .java. And I do this now. Now it says error. So it's pointed out that error, and now you need to go and change or edit or debug your application before it can run. It says one error. Let's try to highlight something here. Put some arrow here to show that there's a problem, but you don't clearly see it. And so when you are using this, now you have to go back and make the necessary corrections before it will get compiled. So if there's an error, it's never going to run until you correct that error. And so, but in the IDE, what happens is that if I do the same error here, so if I remove the capital S, for example, then you see that to the left, it has highlighted with some red cross or mark there that there's an error. So the moment you make a mistake, you see, so wherever there's a mistake, the lines are numbered. You see all the number, those lines highlighted, telling you that there's an error which you have to correct. And sometimes if you just roll your mouse over it, it might tell you, so public, so it's expecting public. So I put L here to correct that. So once you correct the error, then the highlighting goes off. And so that's why we use these IDs. It helps us a lot for you to be able to easily write and run programs. Okay. Yeah. So our simple program, hello, welcome to Java, is what we have just written here. That will come to that eventually towards the end of the presentation. So if I can come back to the presentation. So that's graphically how we go about it. Write this. Now what it means that the IDE takes care of all this. All you do is to run. So once you type, it will do this compilation to create the class file, and then you just run, and then you get your results, your application. So this is how it goes. That's the process. Okay. So this is how it goes. You have source code that you type or you create, then you save it, and it's saved as .java. Then the compiler comes in, or you compile, and then you get bytecode, which is .class. But there's an issue. If there's a problem with the source code, or there's an error, what happens is that the system will tell you to go back and correct the error. And so you need to keep going back and correcting the errors, if you have any, until all the errors are cleared or corrected. And then the file is saved as bytecode, which is .class. And then that's the one that you run. And then you run the bytecode to get your final result. But sometimes the result too might not be what you expect, which means there's something we call runtime error. So there's compilation error, or what we call syntax errors, and then runtime error. We'll be talking more about this. So runtime error, so even though the code has run and it's correct, so if I do something like this, so if I can go back to my IDE, oh, why is it opening? Shouldn't. Let me close this. Retry now. Okay. Let me open this. So trying to open the IDE here. I need to. As my machine slow down, you open so many things. That's what happens. Yeah. Okay. So here, this is my application that says hello, welcome to Java. Now assume that I make a mistake here. So instead of weld, I say maybe word. Hello, well, then I say something like this. Okay, so this, you don't see any error highlighted because there's no, as far as Java is concerned, there's no error. But when I run this, and so run, I say run as application, then I realize that it has printed out what I want to print out, but then it's not correct. So your outcome is wrong. So this is what we call a runtime error. So your result is wrong, and so you need to go back again and correct the code. And so that's the process. That's what I was showing you. So if you look at this, So after compiling, you get your bytecode, and when you run, until you get your correct result, you need to keep going back, to the code to correct it. And so the process, but now that the IDE handles the first part, so when you write your code, all you do is to run, and then if the result is not good, you go back and you can correct both the syntax or the runtime errors. And so the Java process is plain and simple. Simply write your code in plain language and just run. And then once you run, so here it is there. So moving forward, that's what we're going to be doing. So anytime we introduce a concept, if we say variables, we're going to come here, type in what variables means, and then we'll run and see the outcome or whatever is always the result. If we say selection statement, if and else, we'll come here, run, write the code, run, and see how it works. And so it's going to be both just discussing the concepts as well as the demonstration. So a lot of the lectures will be centered around the demonstration. Because Java is a practical thing. Something you can't just learn it in your head and then, that's all. You need to be actually working on it. And so the bulk of the classes or the lectures is going to be centered on the IDE and the various concepts. So winding down, so what do you need before you can actually run or write Java programs as we have just seen? There's something called a compiler, and that's the one that takes your plain language and converts it to machine language, or what we call your source code and converts it to bytecode, or your .java file and converts it to .class. So that process we call it compilation. So you compile and convert from source code to bytecode. And then there's something called the virtual machine. That's the one that takes your source code, your bytecode, and now runs to give you your results. Now, all these things are contained in a software that you download, plus what we call an API that works. So when you download, so this is how it works. Okay, so it says any operating system at all. So it can be Windows, it can be Android, whatever it is. You need this what we call the JDK. So but the words are used interchangeably. So you see, the acronyms. You see JDK, you see JVM, which means Java Virtual Machine. You see JSE, which is Java Standard Edition, and all that. They all mean the same thing. It's an application that you download and install on your computer, and that is it. And so once you've installed it, it's the one that takes over. So when you compile your code, but the compiler is also part of it. You compile your code, that takes over and does the running, and it interacts with the operating system. So that's why we say it's operating system independent or platform independent. It doesn't matter what operating system you are using, it's going to work. And so that's the process. And so you need to install the JDK before you can begin running Java programs or writing Java applications. And that's the latest one is version 16, and then you download from Oracle. Like I said, we used to download from Sun Microsystems, their website, but now you go to Oracle. So if I click on oracle.com, so I've already, so we just click on this link, let it open and see. So machines rather slow. Anyway, okay, so go to oracle.com. Internet 2 is not helping. Internet is slow this morning. Okay. Check my internet speed. Now, if you see my computer, there's a website we call fast.com. You go to fast.com, can always tell you your internet speed. Internet speed is trying to calculate. It looks like my internet is just too low. No. Wow. In kilobits, 1.4. Let's see how that is too low. And that's explaining 1.3 meg. Wow. You need about 20, 30 before you can get things to work well. Internet speed at this, okay, 12 is varying. So sometimes, okay, around 13. 13 is still slow. That's right. Okay, I was trying to open Oracle, but I think the internet is just too slow. So, but when you click on it, you can see where Java is for you to download. And there's a YouTube video as well on how to install it. So if you click on this link, you open YouTube, and then again, let me try and see whether the YouTube will be a bit faster. And then it takes you step by step, starting from scratch, how you can, yeah, okay, so this video, so if you click on that link, it's, where are the adverts? Adverts will always disturb. Okay, yeah, so this, if you click on this, it will take you step by step through. So on the screen where you go to download it, it will just if you watch this video. I used to demonstrate this in class, but sometimes by the time you go back to your machine to do it, you would have forgotten. So it's better to open this machine and then not machine, open this website and then be watching it whilst you are going through the process. You can always stop it or go back, but it's very simple. Once you download it, you just install by following the commands. Eventually it will install it for you on your machine. So that's how we install what we call the Java Development Kit, or JDK. Now, after you've installed it, you'll see if I go to my computer and I go to PC, I go to my Windows or my C program files, you'll see Java as a folder. So it will create a Java folder for you. And once you see that JDK 16.0.1. So this is when you install it on your machine, you will get it as a folder here. You don't need to do anything with this. But if you try to open it, there are so many files that all these are going to help you in developing your applications. So you don't need to worry about this. Once you download it, you are fine. All you need is just start working. When you start your machine, Java is also loaded, and you don't need to open it or do anything. And it updates. Depends on your settings. If there's any update, Java, it will just download and update it. So you don't need to worry about it. So once you download it, so let me go back to my presentation. Yeah, is somebody calling me? I'm in a class right now, so I'll finish. Yeah, okay. So let me come to the last part. Okay. So here, now we have some IDEs, but we are using the Eclipse, just like I have demonstrated. Some of you might have used other IDEs, but sometimes you need to be careful. It's not all of them that work across the programming languages. So Eclipse works very well with Java. You can use it for other things, but you can also have other applications. Other IDEs like BlueJ or IntelliJ IDEA. You can also use this for Java. NetBeans. Yeah, so NetBeans was the early one that came. We're using this, but it can be very slow. So we don't use NetBeans. Again, you can click on this, go to the Eclipse website, and you can download Eclipse. After Eclipse, when you download it, You know, it just puts it on your computer, and you don't need to do anything. You don't really need to install it per se. Just so Eclipse here says download. If you are using Windows, if you are using Mac, you can search for it. Yeah, so there's Windows, and then there's Mac, there's Linux, and so on. Most of us don't use Linux, so you can download it here, and then it will work for you. I don't need to go through this. At least you know how to download and install applications. So in Eclipse, that's what we'll be using. So you need to install your Java JDK or JRE, what we call the runtime environment, or JSE, standard edition, or JVM. They all mean the same thing. The same Java, but the correct term is JDK, which is Java Development Kit. So once you say Java Development Kit, it has all the other things in them. You have what we call the standard edition, you have the runtime environment, you have the virtual machine, and all those things. Okay, so the last part of this, we've already seen some as I was demonstrating. Where's my mouse? Wow, the way my machine is behaving this morning. Yeah, so we're going to look at the last part of it is a source code. And so this is what we're going to demonstrate before we've already seen this. So this is the simplest Java code for writing or for displaying hello world. That will be your first Java program to write. And so if you open or if you want to start typing Java and you open your IDE, then it's best to use an IDE, not Notepad like you saw. So Notepad, you have to be typing everything by yourself. So that's why we use the IDE. And then we create Java applications. So I'll just demonstrate how we're going to be doing these things in our subsequent classes. So the IDE normally comes like this. So if I close everything, so here I'll clear everything. So this is how your IDE. So if you are now coming to start writing Java for the first time, you need to create what we call a project. So a Java project is what you are going to be working within, and we can have separate projects. So you can have a project maybe for if you are a developer, you can have a project for maybe your church. So your church wants an application or a church management system. You can have that as a project. You can have another project for your association, or maybe a Keep Fit club, or even your student groups. So maybe Christian fellowship. You can decide to write an application that will handle certain things, maybe membership dues, or and all those things that handle data. And so each of them comes as a project because you don't want to mix them. You see, if you are writing or if you are developing an application for your student fellowship group, you wouldn't want to mix that or put that in the same folder as maybe your schoolwork or maybe something you are developing elsewhere. So when you are writing Java programs, the first thing we do is to put them in projects. And so if you open the IDE, the first thing you do is to go to the top left there, the menu, then you click on the file, and then you say new, and then Java project. So the first thing to do is to create a Java project. So if I click on this, it will display something for me, asking me for the name. So what's the name of this project? So I can just say maybe my church, my church app, or something like that. So I just have now that's my project. I can have another project, Java classes. Like I have another project level 300. or level 400 project management. You know, that's another course I teach. So I can have them as separate projects. So I just go ahead, okay, finish, create. Yeah, it's always by, okay, it doesn't matter. So create my church app. Since usually starts with a lowercase letter, it doesn't matter. I'll just change this to so create. Java has a way of doing these things. So when you do that, now it has created something. Now, if you look at the top left there, you see my church app is created there. My annotation is not working very well. So yeah. So at the top there, top left is my church app, which is my project which has been created. Yeah. Now you realize that let me close this, you realize that it has added certain things. Yeah, JRE system library and so on. Then there's source and so on. A whole lot. So if you open this, you see that it's a whole lot of things Java has already added in there. You see, so when we're writing our applications, Java has already helped us with plenty things, libraries and whatnot. And so, if, for example, I want to write or calculate the square root of a number, for example, I just use square, or I just type simple English, square root, or I think it's SQRT, you know, and then Java will understand that and then calculate that, and display it, because a whole lot of things have already been written that are helping you to do that. And that's where the object-oriented comes in. So we don't even touch all these. We just leave them there as they are. So let me delete this here. It doesn't help anything. So you can have several projects. So if you look to the top left there, I have, let me annotate, yeah. So I have level 200 projects, I have level 300, I have my church app, I have my Java classes. So these are my projects. So it's up to you to create, but for now we're going to just have one project that we're doing our Java on. You can decide to add another project if you want. Let me, okay, clear this so we can, yeah, okay. So now if I now come to do my development, because I'm working on different projects, I need to select which project I want to work on. Because like I said, you can't put all of them in one folder because you can't mix them up like that. So what we normally do is we exit from here. Yeah, what we normally do is that we put them into, I can't have my church application on the same folder as my Java classes, so the files are just mixed up. That doesn't make sense. So if I want to now write something on my church application, so I need to come to that. I need to hover my mouse over that, right click, and then I go to new, and then package. So I can just put first. Okay, I'll come to explain that. Okay. So a package is like a folder, or it's a folder. So within the project, you are now creating folders. So you can have separate projects. So if I have, I thought I could draw something, but yeah, if I have separate projects, so I have my church project. And when I go into my church project, I want to have a folder for members, or a folder for pastors or priests, a folder for collections. So I'm going to have separate folders. Again, I don't want to mix everything. So it's just like your class. If you create a folder for level 200 courses, when you go into that project, you are going to have Java as one of them. You're going to have maybe project management or whichever, any of those things that you do. So they become your folders that you create, because you want all your Java files to be in your Java folder. But all those folders are within your level 200 class. So level 200 class, Then I have a folder for Java. So level 200 class will be your project. And then under your project, you're going to have folders. And the folder is where you concentrate on or you do your work. So here I've created a new folder that I've called first. So to create a folder, again, you simply go to that project and right click and then say new, and then you can create a package. So the packages are, so I can create another package here that I'll call second, finish. So we realize that I have first project, no, not project, where they are all under my church app, but I have my first package, which is just a folder, and then second, which is another folder, and so on. And now, so we're now going to be writing our code inside these packages or these folders. And so, and that's where the word class comes in. So we normally have projects going to package and then going to class. And that's what I showed on the this one, the screen here. So you will see that we have notates. So before you create any Java application, you first of all need to create a project. Then under the project, you create packages. And then inside the package is the class. So what it means is that you can have several classes in a package. You can have several packages in a folder, I mean in a project. So, and this is just to organize your work so that you can easily locate something. So as a developer, you can't put your level 200 and then your church, your Keep Faith Club, your whatever, all in one folder. It doesn't make sense. And that's why we try to categorize things like this. So you always go to the, once you've created your projects, of course, if you have multiple projects, fine, you can always identify which project to work on, and then you go ahead and work on that because in this. So if I come back to my IDE, so here we had my church app as our project. Then we have first as a package and second. Now I want to use the first folder or package. So I right click on that and then I go to new and I pick class. So class is what we are going to be writing our applications in, our programs in. So I can give you a name for this class as, let's say, okay, first lesson. Okay, click on this and say finish. And so it has created something here. It has already created something. Let me mute some feedback I'm getting. Okay, so this is what you will see the first time you create or you start to create a Java application. And so if you go to the left again, you'll see that first lesson.java. So the IDE has already created the file for you. You don't need to go to save and then give it a file name. So once you say the class name is this, then that becomes the file name. So the file name or the top there is saved as first lesson.java. So, and that file is within the first package or folder, which is within the My Church project. So project followed by package and then class. So this is where we now begin typing our Java code. So our first, so let me remove this. And that's where I put in, okay, so it says system dot out. I'm to explain what all these things mean. Print ln, and then you have, sometimes the system just helps you out. So, okay, welcome to Java, okay, or Java programming. Then I end this. I can add something. I can hope, no, say I can hope. Let me just copy this. See. Okay, I want to paste this here, but not the same thing. Just simply say welcome to Java programming. I hope you enjoy lessons. Okay. enjoy the lessons. Okay. It says there's an error. I don't know what error. Oh, space. Oh no, I've left out. Okay, good. So I've typed this. I just go and run. So I go and run this. So run as application. And then file that says that editor does not contain the main type. Okay, there's something error. Okay, I think I'll just go ahead and then let's see. First lesson, public class. There's nothing wrong with it. Says there's yeah, so when there's an error, it will always highlight it. It won't run. Editor does not contain a main type. I'm not getting what is happening here. Let me try this. Or is this the no module? I'll save. Yeah, so that's launch error. I'm not sure where the error is coming from. Let me try another one. Set package first. So this first lesson, it's not giving me where the error is coming from. It means there's something. Okay, let me try the other. Try the other one. Java.
Sorry,
Yeah. You see?
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to just run this and see where the error is coming from. My Java file. So let me run this application. Okay, so this runs. There's something that is missing here. Okay, but we'll come to work on those things. But these are some of the things you can always expect when you are working on programs or programming. Once in a while, something gets mixed up somewhere. So here, okay, so I was trying to just copy this and then paste. So Control V, and then I will just say, okay. So this is what I hope you enjoy the lessons. Right. So let me run this. Run as application. Okay, so all right. So it means there's a problem with that file. I'll work on that later. Anyway, so here, what we have done is that we have simply printed out 2 lines. Hello world. Oh no, this is supposed to be world. When I was doing the errors. Hello world. Welcome to Java. Okay. So I run this, and that's what we get. So our first application is simply creating a file or a class. The class name is the same as the file name. We'll talk about that next week. And then we have what we call the main method that is always present in all Java applications. And then you can now type in anything. I can also type in something like this. So system dot out dot and okay, I can do so. I can save something like 5 times 6, maybe times 8, 9, even possibly divided by 2. Now you can do something like this. Now, so here, if I do this and I print, so let me just say print and I run as this. What it has done is that Java has evaluated what I have here. Everyone, you can do it manually and see, and it has come up with the answer there. Now, this is where the object-oriented comes in because we have not added anything. We have not asked the program to multiply. When I say this, it means it's multiplication. So we have to, because computers don't understand what we write. When you write things like this, you also need to be able to write things that can interpret this so that the machine will understand. But Java has already done all those things. So all those things are running in the background. And so I can just say this 5 times this, and then it will give me the answer. I can do a whole lot of calculations and all those other things. And there's something called a math class that has all these things. And it does them for you, you know, when you call on them. But this is going to be different from if I copy this, for example, and then I put this is the last part. So we are ending shortly. So if I put this in quotes, so here, and I put this like this. Now, if I run this, run as application here. Now, what do we see? We realize that the first one, okay, hello, welcome to this, but this one has evaluated, you know, the numbers, or when it comes across the numbers, or it does the evaluation. But this, because it's in quotes, it's treating it as a string, what we call a string literal. It just reproduces exactly what is there. So if you put something in quotes, it's going to reproduce it. Now, if you were to do divide by 0, for example, now you can't divide the number by 0. This is what we call a syntax error. It will probably give you an error, because when you divide a number by 0, where is it? Yeah, it will tell you something. Let me see if I can run this, whether they have. So run as the application. Yeah, it says you cannot divide a number by 0, so you get an error. So what it's trying to do is that you can, okay, so by if I put, so let me put the 2 back there, and then I put 0 here. Now, so here, run this as application, run application, and so it's able to evaluate that, the 135, because this are divided by 2, but this one, it doesn't give an error, because it's not evaluating this. Anything that comes in between quotes is normally reproduced exactly as it is. So you can make whatever mistakes you want here. You can type, you know, any mistake you do here, it doesn't matter. Java just reproduces it as exactly as it is, so long as it's in quotes. So run the application. So run application. No, you don't get an error. No, it reproduces them exactly as it is. So we call this a string literal. It doesn't, if you don't put it in quotes, then it's going to do the evaluation. And then if there's what we call a logical error, like dividing by 0, then you get the error printed out for you. So this is what the interface we're going to be working on most of the time. So I'll be switching between the PowerPoints. So once we see some code here, we'll either copy it or we'll go turn it off. Or we, so introduction. Yeah. So to end this, if people don't have any questions or any, so every line of code that runs in Java must be inside a class. So we'll come to talk about that. So everything that you do must be inside the class. So you see that here, this is the class. So the class is my Java file, and then you open. So these braces are what you open, and then it goes all the way to the end. So it closes there. So it doesn't. So you can open other things inside, but then everything within here is inside the class. Now, if you come after closing and you try to type something, now you're going to get an error because it's outside the class. And that's why we say everything in Java must be inside the class. So you wouldn't, we'll talk about blocks later on. And so I say it must be inside the class. So, and again, Java is case sensitive. So when you use a particular name to some specific case, you need to be consistent. Otherwise, you change. So hello world with a small w is not the same as hello world with capital W, because Java is case sensitive. So, and we're saying that the name of the file must always match the name of the class. So when you create a class, then that's the end of this. So when you create a class, public, we'll soon understand why we call this public and so on. So the name of the class is my Java file, and that's the name of the file. It's saved as my Java file.java. So that's the basic syntax when we come to talk of Java applications. So the takeaway from this class is simply Java is very robust, high-level programming language, and then it's very popular, used in so many applications. And then we write Java applications, or before you can write the Java application, you need to download and install what we call the JDK from the Oracle website. And then you also need an IDE. Now, I insist that you follow, if you really want to install it, follow the instructions in the video. So you can just go to YouTube, type how to install Java. You will get several instructions. Pick one and just follow step by step how to install and get Java to work on your machine. And you can always check after you've installed. You go to version. So if I come here, for example, that's clear screen. Yeah. So if I clear my screen and I type Java version, enter. So it will tell you Java version 16. Now, if you don't have Java on your machine, it will tell you that Java is not installed. And so in that case, you need to now go ahead and install Java. So you can always check first before you, because sometimes you can download some, let me see, you can download some applications and it will come with Java. And Java will be installed on your machine. You'll probably not be aware, but you can always check this before you do the download. And once you download it, then you don't need to worry about this screen. We're not going to be using a black screen. We're going to use an IDE. So we're saying that go to Eclipse website and download Eclipse. And then that's what we are going to be using for our applications. And before you start running or writing Java code, make sure you create a project. And so the first thing to do, go to File, New, and make it a Java project. So cancel this. I don't know what's happening. File, New, Java project. Oh, where is it? Yes. Don't pick the project because you can use Eclipse for other projects, not only Java. But when you say Java project, then you have to add all the Java things that you need. So the first thing you should create is a project. Within the project, you create a package, and within the package, you create a class. Don't worry about all the other things that are in there. So this is where, once you create your class, you give it a name. That's where we're going to begin typing in our Java code and getting it to work. So for those of you who have laptops, those of you who don't have, maybe I advise that you try and get one. That's your assignment for the week. Try to get Java installed on your machine, and then also install an IDE and see whether you can write a simple Hello World application by simply copying. Now you realize that when you create your the Hello World application, that is this one here, the IDE normally creates this for you. And so once you create your class, the IDE will create your, you give it a name. The IDE will create the class name for you, public class, and create this, what we call the main method. And all you now need to do is begin typing within the method. And so we'll continue with this next week, or continue working on this interface next week. Okay, so that ends this presentation. Any question or comment that we should go to the presentation? Yeah, okay, so that's the end of this presentation. All right, so a question or a comment or something. We haven't started doing anything complicated yet, so you can just take your time. And again, the course textbook is there, so always like I said, try and download it. Where is it? So I have it here. Java, yeah. Okay. So that's just, let me stop the recording. I've recorded this thing for too long. So